Tony Khan is killing the indies. Guys, we're talking about it all in today's video. I have multiple other stories. We're going to be talking about a former WWE superstar who was released several years ago. He's returning to the ring. I'm going to tell you guys where he's making his debut. Also, we're going to be talking a little bit about AEW Rampage because it appears that there could be something big in the works. Guys, if you want more videos like this, click that subscribe button. I'll put the timestamps in the description down below. Let's talk about Alex Riley. You guys remember him? If you don't, I don't blame you. He was released by WWE several years ago. We haven't really seen much of him since. I think he wrestled in December at some point, but nonetheless, he's back. And it actually just so happens that it's taking place at NWA's Nuff Said event, which is happening this upcoming February 11th, and he'll be taking on former WWE superstar, former Impact Wrestling star, EC3. Now, here's the thing with NWA. They're bringing in Alex Riley, obviously now being referred to as Kevin Kiley, but they're bringing him in, and I don't know why. I don't know why NWA... You know, and this is a weird thing that NWA often gets criticized for. They're bringing in a lot of people that aren't going to necessarily move the needle for their show. And I understand when people criticize NWA for that reason. I understand that because I look at their roster. And by the way, I think Trevor Murdoch has been absolutely incredible with this run with NWA. But you see Trevor Murdoch and a few other people on this roster. Then you have some people that people aren't really necessarily familiar with. The thing is, they don't really have anybody that truly stands out in their promotion. The one person that kind of did for a while was Nick Aldis, and that relationship is completely over. So here's the thing. Alex Riley coming to NWA, it's cool. It's going to be really interesting to see how he performs. What is his presentation like? Is this going to be a permanent move? Is he back in the wrestling industry? Or... is this just another person that's on the NWA roster and they really don't have plans for him and they're really not going to do anything, you know? And that's the issue with NWA. Like, people sometimes get brought in and then you're kind of wondering, like, what's going to be a big change for this company. Obviously, Matt Cardona has done some incredible stuff with the NWA, but for some reason they have the World Championship on Tyrus. And, you know, this is one of those things about NWA. It's really unfortunate, but it's just kind of like the reason why they're not really growing to something bigger when they have the potential to do it, when their storytelling isn't bad. But you got to make big changes, and these are the types of things where people are kind of scratching their head. I'm intrigued by this. I think Alex Riley was, I always thought there was potential with him. I was kind of shocked to see that he didn't do anything really after WWE, and it's been so many years. But nonetheless, I am excited to see what it's going to be like. Also, one thing to consider is he is 41 years old. I still think 41 years old is still relatively young in wrestling these days. I mean, especially wrestlers these days aren't, you know, on drugs and alcohol abuse and steroids. Like, you know, 41 is still relatively young, but, you know, that is a factor as well. Guys, I want to talk about AEW Rampage. So the reason why I want to talk about AEW Rampage is because AEW is making a change for the upcoming episode of February 17th. Now, the reason for this is because TNT will actually have the NBA Rising Stars Challenge, and it's All-Star Weekend. This is the time period for AEW in which they have to adjust their schedule. Now, it's not the first time that they've done Rampage on 7 p.m., but there's been a lot of rumors lately that TNT, TBS, Warner Media Discovery could eventually be looking to changing Rampage's time slot. Now, this is a very interesting rumor, but if I'm going to add my 2 cents into it, I think it's really important that us fans really watch at 7 p.m. and see if that changes our viewing habits. Now, the issue is with the key demographic for AEW, the Friday night 10 p.m. time slot is just bad. Like, people who watch AEW, they're going out. And I'm sorry to say this, but we're not really changing our plans just so we could watch AEW Rampage, a pre-taped show that's only 1 hour long. We could come home, watch it on DVR. It's not that big of a deal. So the thing is, I actually like the idea of Rampage being moved to 7 p.m. permanently. I think that would actually be really exciting when you consider Rampage at 7 p.m., SmackDown at 8 p.m., and then also occasionally Impact Wrestling has kind of been toying with pay-per-view ideas for Friday nights as well. And then this way you don't really have like this weird, you know, if you're going out on a Friday night, you don't have to feel weird because you're missing wrestling or anything like that. So yeah, this is a very interesting idea in my opinion. I'm glad to see that, they are making that time slot accommodation. I'm glad this is not happening on like Saturday night. I'm glad this is not happening at like midnight or something like that. I'm glad that TNT is trying this out again at 7 p.m. I think it's the time slot that makes the most sense on Friday nights, and actually leading into SmackDown could be a really good thing. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys want to see ROH? Do you guys want to see AEW Rampage, move time slots permanently to 7 p.m.? That's a big question to ask, but it actually does lead us to ROH, and we're going to talk about that right now. So AEW ROH, how is it killing the indies? You might be asking this question, and I got the answers for you. But first, I'm going to show you guys this tweet. We got a tweet from Beyond Wrestling. Wheeler Yuta, Willow Nightingale, Tracy Williams, and Trish Adora will no longer be appearing or competing at Perfection or Vanity on Sunday, 2/26 at White Eagle in Worcester. Email beyondwrestling@gmail.com if you'd like a refund. And you might be wondering, why is this the case? Well, guys, we all know that ROH is having some tapings, and it just so happens to fall on the rumored date of the 26th. So it appears that Tony Khan is removing talent from indie wrestling shows that have been advertising his talent. And it just so happens that Tony Khan is going to be using these individuals for the Ring of Honor tapings. Now, with that being said, you might be wondering, why is this killing the indies? Well, I see a lot of criticism for WWE. I see a lot of people talking about WWE and the fact that they don't work with indies and they don't do these things with other companies. And granted, as a business decision, I actually understand what Tony Khan is doing. He has to take care of his product first and foremost. He cannot worry about indie wrestling. It is not his job to save indie wrestling. But also at the same time, too, there is an issue with Tony Khan having his talent, being able to work indie wrestling and then pulling their talent from indie wrestling. That is an issue. Okay, I understand your product comes first. I understand that becomes the priority, but you are going to impact the indie scene incredibly high. There's going to be an incredibly, I'm like tongue twisting right now. You're going to literally hurt the indie wrestling scene just by having people be advertised and then being pulled every single time. And I'm not saying this as a complaint to Tony Khan, because from a business perspective, I get it. Your product has to come first, but also maybe have a little bit more control or a little bit more strategy when it comes to allowing your talent to work indies, because this is not the first time it's happened. People have to get refunds. Fans, refunds obviously hurt the indie wrestling promotion. Unless Tony Khan is paying these people for the inconvenience, which I guess technically could be a possibility. Tony Khan is a pretty good guy in that regard. But again, I'm just kind of hypothetically stating, like, if these companies are refunding people, maybe people aren't interested, whatever, it does hurt the company. And this is something that's a big issue. And this is not the first indie promotion to have this issue happen. I think it's really important that Tony Khan and AEW don't have this issue going forward. The reason why this doesn't happen in WWE is because their talent aren't allowed to work indies. The reason why it happens in AEW is because they are. So obviously there's got to be a middle ground, because I do like indie wrestling having AEW superstars on it, but of course, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, if you guys want more videos like this, click that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.